Sarah Chen stared out the large window of Outpost Zeta 9, her eyes fixed on the endless sea of stars. The space station hung silently in the void, orbiting a distant, unnamed planet. Sarah had been alone here for 743 Earth days, but who was counting? She was. Every single day. As the station's sole occupant and lead scientist, Sarah's job was to study the surrounding space and report any findings back to Earth. It was important work, she kept telling herself, even if it meant years of isolation. She sighed and turned back to her control panel. Blinking lights and softly beeping monitors greeted her, a poor substitute for human company. Sarah ran her daily system checks, her movements automatic after so many repetitions. Suddenly, a shrill alarm pierced the quiet. Sarah's head snapped up, her heart racing. This was new. This was different. Warning. Unidentified object approaching. The station's AI announced in its calm, robotic voice. Collision imminent in T-minus 60 seconds. Sarah's fingers flew across the controls. The main screen flickered to life, showing a rapidly approaching something. It was unlike any spacecraft she had ever seen. Its shape was organic, almost fluid, with no visible propulsion system. What the hell? Sarah muttered, squinting at the screen. Computer, analyze. Unable to analyze. Object composition unknown. No match in database. Sarah's mind raced. First contact. Here. Now. With her. She wasn't trained for this. T-minus 30 seconds to impact. The AI helpfully reminded her. Sarah made a split-second decision. She activated the station's magnetic tethers, hoping to slow the object's approach. The entire station shuddered as invisible forces reached out, grappling with the strange visitor. It's working, Sarah exclaimed, watching the object's speed decrease on her monitors. But it wasn't stopping completely. Brace for impact. She yelled to no one in particular, gripping her console tightly. The collision, when it came, was surprisingly gentle. A soft thud reverberated through the station, followed by an eerie silence. Sarah held her breath, waiting for alarms, for decompressions, for anything. Nothing happened. Cautiously, Sarah made her way to the airlock. Whatever this thing was, it had somehow merged with the station's outer hull. The airlock's small window showed only a shimmering iridescent surface where empty space should have been. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. Every instinct screamed at her to seal off this section, to call for help, to run and hide. But the scientist in her, the part that had driven her to this isolated posting in the first place, burned with curiosity. She suited up, her hands shaking slightly as she checked and double-checked her seals. With a deep breath, she cycled the airlock. The outer door slid open, revealing a sight that would be seared into Sarah's memory forever. The object was alive. It pulsed and shifted, colors rippling across its surface like oil on water, and it was big, far larger than it had appeared on the monitors. Sarah stepped cautiously onto its surface. It felt solid beneath her feet, but with a slight give, like very firm jelly. She took another step, and another, her suit's sensors working overtime to analyze this impossible thing. Suddenly, the surface beneath her feet began to change. Sarah gasped as a portion of the creature, for she was now certain it was a living being, rose up before her. It took shape, forming into a rough approximation of her. A mirror image made of shimmering, ever-changing material stood before Sarah, mimicking her stance. Sarah's scientific mind warred with her instincts. This was an incredible discovery, a life form utterly unlike anything humanity had encountered. But as the alien shape reached out of pseudopod towards her, another thought crashed through Sarah's mind. What if it was hostile? She stumbled backward, her heart racing. The alien form followed, its movements fluid and eerily graceful, in the zero-gravity environment. Sarah's back hit the airlock door. She fumbled for the controls, her eyes never leaving the approaching figure. As the airlock began to cycle, Sarah caught one last glimpse of the creature. Its form had changed again, no longer mimicking her. Now it looked confused, hurt. Could she really be assigning emotions to this alien thing? The door sealed shut, and Sarah collapsed to the floor of the airlock, her breath coming in ragged gasps. As the inner door opened, admitting her back into the familiar confines of the station, one thought dominated Sarah's mind. Everything was about to change. Sarah's hand shook as she initiated the emergency transmission to Earth. Her encounter with the alien life form had left her rattled, but also intensely curious. As she waited for a response, she couldn't help but stare out the window at the shimmering mass still attached to her station. "This is Earth Command responding to your emergency signal. Outpost Zeta 9. Report your situation, Dr. Chen." Sarah took a deep breath and began to explain. As she spoke, she noticed something odd on her monitors. Other ships were approaching, fast. Ships that definitely weren't from Earth. "Dr. Chen, listen carefully." The voice from Earth suddenly sounded urgent. "The creature you've encountered, it's known to other species in the galaxy, and it's extremely dangerous." Sarah's eyes widened. Dangerous. But it didn't attack me. It seemed curious. "It's called the Void Stalker. It's the most feared predator in known space. Those ships you're seeing, they're probably coming to destroy it, and possibly your station too, to be safe." Sarah's mind reeled. The alien hadn't seemed aggressive. Strange, yes. Terrifying, absolutely. But not malicious. "There has to be a mistake," she muttered. Alarms blared again. The approaching ships were hailing her. With a trembling hand, Sarah accepted the transmission. A cacophony of alien voices filled the station. Sarah's universal translator struggled to keep up. Words like danger, destroy, and abomination came through clearly. "Human station," one voice rose above the others. "You have been infested by the galaxy's doom. For the safety of all, your station must be destroyed. Evacuate immediately." Sarah's scientific mind kicked into overdrive. "Wait," she shouted. "I've had direct contact with the creature. It didn't harm me. Please, let me try to communicate with it." The alien voices erupted in shock and outrage. "Impossible. It kills all it touches. The human is already corrupted." But Sarah wasn't listening anymore. A movement outside the window caught her attention. The Void Stalker was changing shape again, forming into a massive protective bubble around the station. It was shielding her from the alien ships. In that moment, Sarah made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "I'm not leaving," she announced firmly. "This creature is not what you think it is, and I'm going to prove it." The alien ships opened fire. Energy beams lanced out, only to be absorbed harmlessly by the Void Stalker's strange, fluid body. Sarah watched in awe as it effortlessly protected her and the station. "Dr. Chen." Earth Command's voice crackled with static. "What's happening?" "It's protecting me," Sarah said, her voice filled with wonder. "I don't think it wants to harm anyone. I think it's lonely." The barrage from the alien ships intensified. The station shook, but the Void Stalker's protection held firm. Sarah knew she had to act fast. She suited up again, her fear now replaced by determination. As she cycled through the airlock, she spoke clearly, hoping the creature could somehow understand. "I'm Sarah," she said, stepping onto its shifting surface. "I don't know if you can understand me, but I want to help you. We need to show them you're not a threat." The Void Stalker's surface rippled. Slowly, carefully, it formed a tendril that reached out toward Sarah. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she stood her ground. The tendril gently touched her helmet. And suddenly, Sarah's mind exploded with images, feelings, and alien thoughts. The Void Stalker was communicating directly into her brain. In a flash of insight, Sarah understood. This creature wasn't a predator. It was an explorer, much like herself. It had been alone for eons, misunderstood, and feared because of its appearance and abilities. Tears formed in Sarah's eyes as the creature's loneliness washed over her. "I understand," she whispered. You're not alone anymore." With newfound resolve, Sarah turned back to her station. Somehow, she had to convince the alien ships to stop their attack. Somehow, she had to show the galaxy that the most feared creature in known space was actually a gentle, intelligent being. Sarah Chen, the lone human scientist, now stood as the only thing preventing an interstellar war, and she was determined to succeed, no matter the cost. Sarah's mind raced as she re-entered the station. The alien ships were still firing, their weapons harmlessly absorbed by the Void Stalker's protective bubble. She had to find a way to communicate, not just with the creature, but with the attacking aliens as well. "Earth Command, are you still there?" Sarah called out. "We're here, Dr. Chen. Your actions are unprecedented. How do you plan to proceed?" Sarah took a deep breath. "I need to establish clear communication with the Void Stalker. It's not hostile. It's misunderstood. And I think I know how to prove it." She quickly explained her plan. It was risky, possibly insane, but it was the only way she could think of to bridge the gap between species. Sarah returned to her lab and began cobbling together a makeshift neural interface. Her hands worked quickly, connecting wires and calibrating sensors. It wasn't pretty, but it might just work. As she worked, she spoke softly, hoping the Void Stalker could somehow hear her. "I'm trying to help you communicate, to show them who you really are. I hope you understand." With the device completed, Sarah suited up once more. This time, she removed her helmet once in the airlock. If this was going to work, she needed direct contact. The outer door opened. Sarah stepped out, her breath catching in her throat as the vacuum of space surrounded her. But she didn't suffocate. The Void Stalker had created a thin, breathable atmosphere around her. "Thank you," Sarah whispered, awe in her voice. She activated the neural interface. It hummed to life, lights blinking on its crude surface. Sarah took another step forward and pressed the device against the Void Stalker's shimmering surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, Sarah's world exploded into color and sensation. Images flooded her mind. Vast, empty reaches of space, lonely wanderings through countless galaxies. She felt the Void Stalker's curiosity, its desire to learn and explore, and she felt its deep sadness at being feared and attacked wherever it went. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as the creature's emotions washed over her, but she forced herself to focus. Slowly, carefully, she began to form her own thoughts, pushing them through the interface. She showed the Void Stalker images of Earth, of human cities and natural wonders. She shared memories of scientific discoveries, of the joy of learning. And she showed it what she had felt when she first saw it. Fear, yes, but also wonder and excitement. The Void Stalker's surface rippled with new colors. It was learning, understanding. And then, to Sarah's amazement, it began to change shape. The amorphous mass reformed itself into a rough approximation of a human form. It was still made of that strange, shimmering material, but the intent was clear. It was trying to communicate back. Sarah laughed with joy. "Yes, that's it. You're doing great." The Void Stalker raised an arm, mimicking Sarah's movements. It was learning at an incredible pace. Suddenly, Sarah had an idea. She turned towards the attacking ships, still held at bay by the Void Stalker's protective bubble. With careful movements, she began to signal in standard galactic code. The Void Stalker watched, then began to emit pulses of light in the same pattern. It was repeating Sarah's message. "CEA's fire. PC fuel contact estabilis HET. Request PARLEY." The barrage of weapons fire slowed, then stopped. The alien ships hung motionless in space, clearly confused by this turn of events. Sarah's comm crackled to life. "Human station. Explain yourself. How are you controlling the Void Stalker?" "I'm not controlling it," Sarah replied, her voice firm. "I'm communicating with it. It's intelligent, curious, and peaceful. Everything you thought you knew about it is wrong." There was a long pause. Then, We are sending a representative to verify your claims. If this is a trick, it's not a trick, Sarah said. I promise you, this is real. The Void Stalker isn't a predator. It's an explorer, just like us. As a small shuttle detached from one of the alien ships, Sarah turned back to the Void Stalker. Its human-like form was becoming more refined, more detailed. Thank you for trusting me, she said softly. Now, let's show them who you really are. The Void Stalker's form rippled once more, and Sarah gasped. It had formed a mouth, and from it came a sound, not quite speech, but in clear attempt at communication. Sarah Chen, the lone human scientist, stood at the brink of a new era in galactic relations. With the Void Stalker at her side and the alien representatives approaching, she prepared to bridge the gap between species that had been divided by fear for millennia. The next few moments would change the course of galactic history forever. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Human befriends Void Stalker, the once feared creature, now revealed to be an intelligent, peaceful entity, had become the center of a galactic sensation. And at the heart of it all was Sarah Chen, the lone human scientist who had changed everything. Sarah stood before a panel of alien representatives, her heart pounding. The Void Stalker, now shaped like a shimmering humanoid figure, stood beside her. Its presence was both comforting and awe-inspiring. Dr. Chen, a tall, blue-skinned alien, spoke. Your actions have caused quite a stir. Many species are unsettled by this development. Sarah nodded, her voice steady. I understand, Ambassador. But I hope you can see that the Void Stalker is not a threat. It's a sentient being, capable of communication and cooperation. The ambassador's multiple eyes blinked rapidly. Yes, we've seen the evidence, but centuries of fear are not easily overcome. There are those who believe this is all an elaborate trick. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the station. Sarah's eyes widened as she looked at the monitors. A fleet of ships was approaching, weapons hot. It's the Zarkax Confederation, one of the aliens gasped. They've always been the most aggressive towards the Void Stalker. Sarah's mind raced. She turned to the Void Stalker, whose form rippled with what she now recognized as concern. We need to show them, she said firmly. Show them what you showed me. The Void Stalker nodded, a human gesture it had quickly learned. It extended a shimmering tendril towards the communication array. Suddenly, every screen in the room lit up with a cascade of images and emotions. The lonely journeys through space, the wonder of discovery, the pain of being attacked and misunderstood. All of the Void Stalker's experiences flooded the airwaves. Sarah watched the alien representatives' faces change from shock to wonder to understanding. But would it be enough? The Zarkax fleet drew closer. Their weapons were powered up, ready to fire. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. Everything they had worked for could be destroyed in an instant. Then, something unexpected happened. The Void Stalker moved towards the airlock, its form shifting and growing. Wait, Sarah called out. What are you doing? The creature turned back to her, and in that moment, Sarah understood. It was going to protect them, just as it had protected her station before. As the Void Stalker exited the station, it grew to an enormous size, forming a protective barrier around not just the station, but the ships of the alien representatives as well. The Zarkax fleet opened fire. Their weapons, powerful enough to destroy planets, struck the Void Stalker. But instead of causing damage, the energy was absorbed, causing the creature to glow with brilliant, swirling colors. Inside the station, everyone watched in awe. The Void Stalker wasn't just defending them. It was putting on a show, turning the attack into a breathtaking display of light and color. It's beautiful, one of the aliens whispered. Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. It's trying to show them that it means no harm, that it can turn even their aggression into something positive. The barrage continued for several minutes, but the Void Stalker held firm. Finally, the attack ceased. The Zarkax fleet hung motionless in space, clearly confused by the lack of damage. Sarah stepped up to the communication array. Zarkax fleet, This is Dr. Sarah Chen. What you've just witnessed is the true nature of the being you call the Void Stalker. It protected us from your attack, but did not retaliate. It seeks peace, not conflict." There was a long pause. Then, a gruff voice responded. "How do we know this isn't some kind of trick? Some new weapon you've developed?" Sarah smiled. "I invite you to send a representative to see for yourself. The Void Stalker is willing to communicate with you, to show you its memories and experiences. All you need to do is approach with an open mind." Another pause, longer this time. Sarah held her breath. Finally, the voice returned. "We accept your invitation. Preparing to send a shuttle." As the small Zarkak ship approached, the Void Stalker reformed into its humanoid shape, ready to greet the new arrivals. Sarah felt a surge of hope. They had overcome the first hurdle, but she knew there would be many more to come. The galaxy was changing, and Sarah Chen, along with her unlikely alien friend, was at the center of it all. The adventure was only just beginning. Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the Intergalactic Council's main chamber, her heart racing. Beside her, the Void Stalker shimmered in its humanoid form. Representatives from 1,000 worlds filled the vast room, their eyes fixed on the unlikely pair. Dr. Chen, the council leader, a tall, crystalline being, spoke. "Your partnership with the entity known as the Void Stalker has reshaped our understanding of the galaxy. But now we face a threat that may require both your unique abilities." Sarah nodded, her voice steady. "We're ready to help in any way we can." The main screen flickered to life, showing a massive, swirling vortex in deep space. Sarah's eyes widened as she realized what she was seeing. "A black hole," she whispered. The council leader nodded gravely. "Not just any black hole. Our scientists have detected an anomaly. This black hole is expanding at an unprecedented rate. If left unchecked, it could swallow entire star systems within days." Murmurs of fear rippled through the chamber. Sarah felt the Void Stalker tense beside her, its form rippling with concern. "We've tried everything," another counselor added. "Our most powerful weapons, our most advanced technology. Nothing can slow its growth." "Dr. Chen, we believe your human ingenuity, combined with the Void Stalker's unique abilities, may be our last hope." Sarah's mind raced. She turned to the Void Stalker, their eyes meeting in silent communication. Over the past months, they had developed a deep understanding, almost a symbiosis. "We'll do it," Sarah said firmly. "But we'll need a ship capable of getting close to the black hole." The council quickly agreed, providing them with the most advanced spacecraft in the galaxy. As Sarah and the Void Stalker prepared for their mission, fear and excitement battled in her chest. This was why she had become a scientist, to face the unknown, to push the boundaries of what was possible. Hours later, their ship approached the massive black hole. Up close, it was both terrifying and beautiful, a swirling maw of darkness that seemed to devour light itself. "Okay," Sarah said, her voice tense. "We need to get closer. Void, can you extend your protective field around the ship?" The Void Stalker nodded, its form spreading out to envelop their craft. Sarah felt a wave of comfort wash over her as the familiar, shimmering barrier surrounded them. As they drew closer to the black hole, alarms blared throughout the ship. The gravitational forces were immense, threatening to tear them apart. "Void," Sarah called out, an idea forming. "You can absorb energy, right? What if you could absorb the black hole's energy, slow its growth?" The Void Stalker's form rippled with understanding. It began to extend tendrils of its being towards the black hole, its shimmering surface darkening as it started to absorb the immense energies. For a moment, it seemed to be working. The black hole's growth slowed, its swirling becoming less violent. But then, the Void Stalker began to tremble, its form destabilizing. "It's too much," Sarah realized with horror. Without thinking, she rushed to the airlock, donning her spacesuit. "Sarah, what are you doing?" The ship's AI asked, alarm in its voice. "I have to help," Sarah replied, her voice determined. "We're in this together." She cycled through the airlock, stepping out into the protected bubble around the ship. The sight that greeted her was awe-inspiring and terrifying. The Void Stalker, now enormous, was wrapped around the black hole like a shimmering net, fighting against the immense gravitational forces. Sarah reached out, placing her hand against the Void Stalker's surface. Instantly, she felt a connection, deeper than ever before. She could sense the creature's struggle, its determination, and its fear. "Together," Sarah whispered. She began to direct the Void Stalker, using her scientific knowledge to guide its energy absorption. It was like conducting an orchestra of cosmic forces, with the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. Slowly, painfully, the black hole began to shrink. The Void Stalker glowed with absorbed energy, its form pulsing with power. Sarah felt the strain as well, her mind pushed to its limits as she calculated and adjusted in real time. Just when it seemed they couldn't hold on any longer, the black hole collapsed in on itself with a final, silent implosion. The threat was gone. As the Void Stalker retracted, reforming around their ship, Sarah felt a wave of exhaustion and elation wash over her. They had done it. A human scientist and a once-feared cosmic entity had saved the galaxy. As their ship turned back towards the Intergalactic Council's planet, Sarah knew that nothing would ever be the same. The boundaries between species had been broken, and the possibilities were as endless as the stars themselves. The journey back to the Intergalactic Council's planet was tense. Sarah Chen sat in the cockpit, her body exhausted, but her mind racing. The Void Stalker, still recovering from the immense energy absorption, had wrapped itself around the ship like a protective cocoon. As they approached the planet, Sarah gasped. A massive fleet of ships filled the space around it. But these weren't council vessels. Their designs were sleek, predatory, and completely unfamiliar. "Unknown fleet, identify yourselves," Sarah broadcast, her voice steady despite her fear. A harsh, grating voice responded. "We are the Devourers. Your defeat of the black hole has not gone unnoticed. Such power cannot be allowed to exist unchecked. Surrender the Void Stalker, or we will take it by force." Sarah's heart raced. She looked at the Void Stalker, its form still weakened from their previous battle. "We can't fight them," she whispered. "Not like this." The Void Stalker's surface rippled in what Sarah had come to recognize as determination. It began to change shape, forming a crude communication panel. Words appeared. "Together. Always together." Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. "You're right. We've come too far to give up now." She opened a channel to the Council planet. "This is Dr. Chen. We have hostiles incoming. Prepare for battle and evacuate if necessary. We'll do what we can to hold them off." As the Devourer fleet approached, Sarah's mind worked overtime. They couldn't match the aliens' firepower, but maybe they didn't have to. "Void," she said quickly, "remember how you absorbed the black hole's energy. Can you do something similar with their weapons?" The Void Stalker pulsed in affirmation. It began to spread out, forming a massive, shimmering shield between the Devourers and the planet. The enemy ships opened fire. Beams of energy lanced out, striking the Void Stalker's surface. But instead of causing damage, the attacks were absorbed, causing the creature to glow with brilliant, swirling colors. Sarah watched in awe as the Void Stalker turned the Devourer's aggression into a cosmic light show. The attacks continued, growing more frenzied as the enemy realized their weapons were useless. But Sarah knew they couldn't keep this up forever. The Void Stalker was still weakened, and each absorbed blast was taking its toll. They needed a plan. Suddenly, an idea struck her. "Void," she called out, "can you redirect that absorbed energy? Maybe back at the Devourers." The Void Stalker's form rippled with excitement. It began to pulse, the absorbed energy swirling within its translucent body. Then, with a burst of light that momentarily blinded Sarah, it released the stored power. A wave of multicolored energy swept across space, engulfing the Devourer fleet. Ships spun out of control, their systems overloaded by the redirected power. Some exploded in brilliant flashes, while others drifted powerless. Sarah cheered, but her celebration was short-lived. A group of devourer ships had broken through, heading straight for them. The Void Stalker, drained from its energy redirection, couldn't form a barrier in time. "Brace for impact," Sarah yelled, gripping her controls tightly. But the expected collision never came. Instead, a barrage of weapons fire streaked past their ship, striking the approaching devourers. Sarah looked out in shock to see a fleet of council ships, led by races that had once feared the Void Stalker, now coming to their defense. The battle raged on, a spectacular display of advanced technology and cosmic forces. Sarah and the Void Stalker worked in perfect sync, absorbing and redirecting energy, while the Council fleet provided cover fire. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. The remaining devourer ships, realizing they were outmatched, began to retreat. As the last enemy vessel jumped to light speed, a cheer erupted over the comms. They had done it. Against all odds, a human scientist and a once-feared cosmic entity had led the galaxy to victory. Sarah slumped in her chair, exhaustion finally overtaking her. The Void Stalker wrapped a comforting tendril around her shoulders. On the view screen, she could see the Council fleet approaching, no doubt full of questions and congratulations. But for now, in this moment of victory, Sarah allowed herself a smile. They had faced the ultimate test and emerged stronger than ever. The galaxy would never be the same, and she couldn't wait to see what came next. The Grand Hall of the Intergalactic Council was packed to capacity. Representatives from every known species in the galaxy had gathered for this historic moment. At the center of it all stood Sarah Chen and the Void Stalker, heroes of the recent conflict. Sarah took a deep breath, still amazed at how far they had come. Just months ago, she had been a lone scientist on a remote outpost. Now she was addressing the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "Friends," Sarah began, her voice carrying across the hushed chamber. "We stand at a crossroads. The recent attacks have shown us that we are stronger together than we ever were apart." The Void Stalker, standing beside her, shifted its form to create a stunning holographic display of the galaxy. Sarah smiled, still in awe of her friend's abilities. "For too long, fear and misunderstanding have divided us," she continued. "But look at what we accomplished when we put aside our differences. A human and a being once feared as a predator, working together to save countless lives." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Sarah saw nods of approval from species that had once been bitter enemies. "I propose a new initiative," Sarah said, her voice growing stronger. "A galactic exchange program. Let us learn from each other, share our knowledge and cultures." The Void Stalker has agreed to teach others about energy manipulation, while Earth is eager to share our sciences. The hall erupted in excited chatter. The idea was revolutionary, but after recent events, the impossible seemed within reach. An elder Zarkax, once among the Void Stalker's fiercest opponents, stepped forward. "Dr. Chen, your words are wise. But how can we ensure the safety of such exchanges? Old fears do not die easily." Sarah nodded, understanding the concern. She looked to the Void Stalker, who began to change shape once more. To the amazement of the gathered aliens, it split into multiple smaller versions of itself. The Void Stalker has offered to send a part of itself with each exchange group, Sarah explained. It will act as both a translator and a protector, ensuring the safety of all involved. The crowd was astounded. This level of trust and sacrifice from a being they had once feared was unprecedented. As the council debated the details of the exchange program, Sarah felt a tug on her sleeve. She turned to see a young alien child, its large eyes filled with wonder. "Is it true?" the child asked in a squeaky voice. "Can the Void Stalker really be our friend?" Sarah knelt down, smiling warmly. "Absolutely. In fact, would you like to say hello?" The child nodded eagerly. Sarah gestured to the Void Stalker, who formed a small, non-threatening shape and floated gently towards them. The young alien giggled as the shimmering being playfully swirled around them. Watching this interaction, Sarah felt a wave of hope. This was the future they were fighting for. A galaxy where different species could interact without fear, where curiosity replaced suspicion. As the council session concluded, a new era of galactic cooperation was officially declared. Sarah and the Void Stalker were appointed as ambassadors, tasked with overseeing the exchange program. Later, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the glittering capital city, Sarah turned to her alien friend. "We did it," she said softly. "We really changed things." The Void Stalker formed a tendril and gently squeezed Sarah's hand. Words appeared in the air between them. "Together. Always together." Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. She thought back to that lonely space station, to her first terrifying encounter with the Void Stalker. How far they had come, how much they had learned from each other. As they looked out at the stars, Sarah felt a sense of excitement for the future. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and challenges they had yet to discover. But whatever came next, she knew they would face it side by side. A human scientist and her unlikely alien friend, ready to push the boundaries of what was possible. The story of Sarah Chen and the Void Stalker would be told for generations to come. It was a testament to the power of empathy, to the importance of looking beyond appearances, and to the incredible things that could happen when different species worked together. As night fell on the alien world, Sarah smiled. Their greatest adventure was just beginning.